I want to share something with you that I haven't shared before in any detail, but I have a rare case of small fiber neuropathy, which causes excruciating pain in my limbs. It causes phantom pain. Some people will have it with diabetes and everything else, and they don't necessarily, it doesn't always manifest itself the same way, and it can make you feel absolutely nuts. My wife has spent more than one occasion checking my feet or my legs for glass, because I will swear that there are shards of glass in my legs or in my hand, and my arm is on fire or whatever. And it is quite bizarre, but it is real. And now we are starting to take this 15-year-old girl who has a real disease and say that this is a fake disease that she has, and the motivation for the hospital would be, A, as you said, there is somebody vested in this disease, which is the disease that people usually say is, what is it, Munchausen?
Munchausen by proxy.
Yeah, Munchausen by proxy, which is making your kids sick, so you get the accolades.
Correct.
But that's usually the disease that they pinpoint, so that's why they're taking the child, right?
Part of the reason they claim.
Okay. The other reason is what? Is there money being exchanged?
I don't know the answer to that. I don't know whether it's a matter of egos, and Boston Children's Hospital believes that it's better able to decide about medicine than any other hospital in the country. I really am at a loss to understand what the motivation would be to take children from parents who are trying incredibly hard to get the right treatment for their child.
Since this case broke, you have been getting a lot of calls and emails.
This is not a new problem. It's just coming to light. Actually, in 2009, one of the doctors who's involved in this case, who's now at Boston Children's Hospital, did a podcast for Mito Action on Munchausen by proxy and how families could help avoid those accusations because it was becoming so common. When this case came public, we've had an overflow of families reaching out to share their story or to ask for help. Not just in Boston, all over the country. The most reputable academic hospitals are the ones that you would never suspect, and yet these are the families that are saying, I go to the most reputable academic hospital with the best treatment options for my child. I trust them. And then, because I argued with the nurses, or I argued with a resident who'd never seen my child before, who challenged what we were doing, when I tried to advocate for my child, as I only know how to do as a mother or as a parent, then Child Protective Services was called in and physically removed in many cases from the situation.
Imagine how bad this is. I don't want to get this into politics, but imagine how bad this is going to be when the federal government is also the enforcer of medicine. I mean, this is a nightmare all the way around. Bo, what is next now for the family?
Well, the family, a gag order was put in place on November 7th, and so now they're really not allowed to talk about the case from what I can tell. I don't know
how can they do that? I mean, it is my child, and now telling me that I can't go to people and say, I need help getting my child back is obscene.
It's not, but the child is not yours. The child belongs to the state.
This is
the child. They don't have custody anymore.
That's the key piece, right? Child's not in your custody. And there's
Glenn,
a
what I would say is what's
law,
interesting.
I'm sorry.
Go
it
ahead,
says that you cannot name a child.
Go ahead, Bo.
Well, one thing that's interesting is that I have several sources that tell me that a newspaper had also been working on this story concurrently as we had been working on it, and trying to do a broader piece about more than just this girl in question, but other girls like those that Christy has mentioned, or patients rather. And that newspaper has been working on this story since April, yet the judge only issued this gag order whenever our cameras were outside the court on November 7th. But anyway, to answer your question, the next thing is just the next court date, which is December 5th, and they continue this custody battle. And some people indicate that DCF is trying to keep custody of this girl until she's 18 years old.
Oh
right
my
now
gosh.
she's 15.
Oh my gosh.
I know personally of 2 other families who also are under a gag order from Boston Children's
So what do they
Hospital.
do? What do we as citizens do? How can we possibly help? I mean, are you taking money for their defense? Is there? I mean, what can people possibly do to help? And B, what do we do as parents? My gosh, I'm going to when I saw the patient bill of rights that you're signing when you come in, and it says that, hey, basically, as long as you agree and play by our rules, you'll get your kid back. Otherwise,
Or maybe
it's our
not.
kid. Maybe not.
Or
It's
maybe
our
not.
kid.
Right.
And of course you're not reading that because you're terrified that your
Right.
child's sick
Yeah,
there, otherwise
take
you wouldn't
care of
be
them.
there,
Right.
right? You
Right.
hurry and sign and pay the bill and get your child to the next place where they can get better. That's what you're thinking about.
I can't believe, I mean, we are sitting in a country where the president said doctors are cutting off feet for $30 instead of giving them, insulin. And that's not true, but this is happening, and nobody is talking about it.
That's a great example of words spoken by someone who has no idea what's actually happening in the patient community. I mean, this is just bubbling over because it's a great example of what a mess actually is happening in the institutions. And to the doctors' credit, they're overwhelmed. There are productivity values placed on what they're doing now, and they are overwhelmed. And there's a tag team of care now. So if you're in the hospital for 4 days, you're likely to see 27 different people who each make their own decisions about what's going to happen to your child. There's no continuity at all. So the fact that this happens actually isn't a surprise if you think of it that way.
This happens so quickly. You have not seen 27 doctors at the hospital. In my experience, the decision is pretty much made within 24 hours. They may not act on it, but the records show that they're making that assessment very quickly.
So is there any way to help this family? Anybody have let's just real quick, so I've got 3 minutes. Any way to help this family? Anybody watching, or is there a way to help them? Anybody?
So I think the family
parents
needs
do
as much
have a
support
Facebook
as
page.
possible, and vocalizing and supporting the advocacy efforts of groups like Mito Action to
Okay, and that's
stand behind this
MitoAction.org.
family is important.
Put that down the bottom of the screen. Bo, you were saying?
Yeah, Glenn, I was just saying that the family does have a Facebook page. They've done some local fundraisers here in Connecticut, and they're working, I've heard through other sources, of possibly setting up a PayPal account or something like that to
But in
receive
my
donations. Because you
opinion,
can imagine it's been
publicity.
10 months of visitation.
Publicity's the answer, because they in fact had the doctor from Tufts testify at the trial, and the court still rubber stamped DCF based on Boston Children's Hospital. So
Tufts is not a
Right.
slouch. It's not like Bob's Hospital.
right.
This particular physician who testified has 30 years of experience with mitochondrial disease patients. He was an attending at Children's Hospital about 20
Does
years
the family
ago.
have to pay for all of this?
Yes, as
the-
far as
Oh
I know.
my gosh.
The legal costs, when this is, again, this family's an example, but I hear horror stories from all over the country. Families second mortgage their homes, wipe out their savings, wipe out their retirement until they have not another dime to spend,
And we talk
just trying
about
to get their children back.
We talk about the evil insurance companies, America. Look at the other side of the coin. Please Facebook this, tweet this story, tell everybody you can. There's got to be some sanity left in America for our children. What do people do when they're going into the hospital? What is the one thing, if you had advice and you'd say, whatever you do, don't do, or do this?
I would go into the hospital only under the orders of a physician who is able to practice at the hospital, who has privileges at that hospital. In these situations, they went to a hospital where their doctor did not have privileges,
Okay.
so they were just out there. And I think you need to explore hospitals. I stood in front of 400 people 2 weeks ago at a conference on pandas and PANS, which is the acronym for this autoimmune disorder, and said, please do not take your pandas or PANS child to Boston Children's Hospital. Just don't go there.
Amazing. Thank you.
I'd say it's a lot about record keeping also, though. You have to, you are the advocate as the parent now, in a way that you never had to be before.
Thank you so much. And Bo, thank you for doing the reporting on this story. Thanks for keeping it alive, and watch for updates on TheBlaze. You bet. Thank you.